I'm looking at the sound on there now. It doesn't really seem to... Yeah, it's almost nothing. Like straight in summers, mate. Nothing to do about it. Except we got fucking rain last like 3 days, man. Jesus. Diddler on the roof is so good. Yeah. But
What up? What's up? I'm just about to go live. What do you want? Twitch. The last time I checked, they had stock. Yeah. Okay, no worries. Yeah. I think so, yeah. Alright, no worries. Alright. I'm on with Darko, we're just live. Yeah. Alright, catch up. Okay. I don't know what it says, but
hmm?
can you just listen on your phone to make sure there's no crackling? Or?
Yeah, yeah, easy. Just check that out. Fucking watch these ads just to support you, bro. You get a few bucks every time, don't you? For 10 cents every ad? How's it work? If I just get a fucking AI thing to keep listening to these ads, are we good? Yeah. Jesus, come on. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, so you can't hear the echo. No crackling either.
Can you hear the aircon?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think we're good.
I'll turn it off and see.
Nope. Wasn't making much noise.
No.
Yeah, it was very minor in the background. We'll see how quick it heats up in this metal shed.
We'll see. Why is the chat not working? Always something, eh?
Always something. Sweet. Alrighty, looks like it's good to go. Awesome. Cool. Okay, do we test it?
Yeah.
Make sure that's working. Oh, actually I can't. I have to verify. Can't be bothered doing that.
Verify for what?
Twitch.
Oh. Are you on X?
I might try on X as well just to see if it works. Easy. This is streaming through there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yep, there we go. Let's see how that works. Let's just test it. Yeah, no, it's popping up. Brilliant. We're good to go.
Oh, sweet. Alright, I'll try my one on then.
Sweet.
Yes,
Awesome.
Alright, we're good. We Gucci.
We're getting quicker and quicker on these setups, mate. It's not
There we
taking
go.
as long at all.
What up, dude?
How
We're
you going,
back.
mate?
Yeah, now we're cooking with gas. How much quicker was that, eh?
Yeah, that was a lot
The
better.
whole setup, it's all like, it seems
Clean.
all like to make sense now, you
I
know?
just need you to lose that tan, man. This is
I'm never losing this.
embarrassing me.
How hectic, eh? It's so
Yeah.
crazy how much more tanned I am now.
It is ridiculous.
Makes me look even more jacked as well. Fuck.
When singers, no more collar shirts for you, mate. We've completely
Yeah.
de-evolved.
Nah, like we will, but not yet. Not whilst I've got this fucking
Yeah.
killer tan
No,
on.
that's fair. I
Bro.
wouldn't fight you for that.
Yeah.
I do think it's also the lighting. I'm definitely not
Bro,
normally
look how
this
much
pale.
whiter
This
you
is
look
this
than
is
me.
not regular color for me at all.
It's actually diabolical.
Yeah, I'm Eastern European here, mate. We do tan. We can
Yeah.
get there.
Eventually.
Yeah. So yeah, we're actually from like genetically close to the same place as well. Like you're from Italy, I'm from Bosnia. It's cross a river or two. That's about it.
We're probably related
Bit
to
of
some
ocean?
fucking distant relative
Yeah,
or
fuck,
something.
at some
I'm
point.
Sure.
We were related to some guy who survived a war at some point. I reckon. Go
sure
back
of it.
far enough.
Looking and sounding good. Hell yeah, boy. Welcome, Andrew. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so this week we got some wild shit to talk about.
Oh man.
We're going to talk about, well, one is niche living.
Yeah.
So a little bit of Perth content for
Yeah.
a change. We're going to talk about the dock situation.
Yeah. You sent me something just on that niche living thing as well. I don't know if it's related, but the thing about the that Nico Constantopoulos guy, the Greek guy, who does those videos.
Oh,
that
yeah,
they're very niche,
yeah.
where he's like talking about the collapse coming in the
Yes.
in the real estate market. I think that might even tie into like more companies like niche living that are about to go bust. And
Well, are
Well,
they?
what
Are they
happens-
about to go bust?
what happens to that sinkhole that's there? Well, I think it might do as well.
Thank you very much for
Stick
the
around.
follow there. I didn't know what that was actually, but I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, shout outs to whoever that was. Sorry, I
Yeah,
missed
it
it. I
popped up
missed
too
it just a
quickly.
second ago. Dang
Yeah.
it! But that's all right. Thank you.
Yeah, the sound pop up for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you have these sort of bubbles that we have, the second it stops like inflating, whoever's like the last person who got on board is left holding the bag, and then you have that domino effect where other people pull their money out in time. Do you know what I mean? It's like any sort of a boom and bust type of thing. Like crypto is basically the same as well. If you come in right at the end of the piece, you're less likely to make a profit margin from it. You're more likely to
But
cop the loss.
niche living's been around for ages
Mm.
though. Like the thing is, I don't understand, right? So they, because I don't know if it's in the entirety of Australia, but like in Perth, you can do this like phoenixing thing, where you can have a building company, it can be hell shit, and then you're able to close it down and then just open up another building company and just completely dissociate from it.
What
But
happens to all like the contracts and stuff you had in the previous one? Does it just get like
What?
thrown out, or
yeah,
can you
so-
sell them to the new company?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happens, but like that gets like stuck in limbo. But like recently they put this thing in called like director's ID. So now you have to have a director's ID linked to a business. So it's supposed to stop phoenixing, which has come through.
I love the name Phoenixing as well because it burns down
Yeah,
and you come from the
you
ashes.
come back. Yeah, so
okay.
they've put that in place, right? But essentially what he's done is he's changed. He already had something set up prior to this happening. So he's just swapped his name to a new company, but it was already existing. So he's technically not phoenixing.
Yeah.
So he's like circumvented that in some roundabout way.
So just so everyone listening as well, like what the thing that you showed me, it's like the 60-minute piece, and he's like trying to fight the he's trying to fight the interviewer.
Yeah.
It's one of those builders from hell type of episode segments.
Yeah,
right?
they were
Is that
like
where this
doing a
came
hit
from?
piece, and then he actually like
Hit them.
wrestled the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Word out is he's gonna actually train Khabib for his next UFC fight.
Yeah.
But like, wait, dude, is like he literally got caught red-handed.
So what was he doing? What did he get caught? Like we should say allegedly as well, in case
It's definitely not alleged.
Ah,
I'm pretty sure
brilliant.
it's 100%.
One of the few times we can say for sure. So what did he get caught doing?
So he's got essentially during the whole like COVID crisis, right? You know how we were talking last week about how they did that $20,000 home buyers grant, and then
Yeah,
obviously
the brilliance of that home buyers grant, the one that made all the prices go up by 20
go
grand.
up. But do you know the whole scheme behind what they were doing? Like for them to get the homeowners grant, there was like a cutoff date, and
from build to purchase, right?
That's
from build
right,
to buy,
yeah.
there was like 18 months or something like that. It had to be within.
but they had to sign them up. They had to get them
Yeah.
signed up before a particular date for that to actually go through. So essentially what all the builders did is they were just taking on as much work as they could, and the way that they could get away with it is as long as they had the slab down, they could technically keep those people locked in limbo. So that's
Jesus.
what they did. They just
This
put
is
all
why there's
these,
so many slabs I can still
Yeah.
see now on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
building sites. I'm like, that's been a slab for like 9 months. Like,
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on?
exactly. So they secured
Jeez.
everyone's money by
Yeah.
putting their slabs down. So these people are paying a mortgage for just a slab right
oh
now.
my lord! Probably still having to rent as well.
Yeah,
and find somewhere to live
as well.
and
So they've got two of
Jesus.
these things going, and then essentially this guy has got all of these backed up houses, and where they caught him out the front of is that's his wife's house that he's building, and he was out there meeting like tradies and stuff to get all quotes done to finish his house off.
Yeah.
But he's got all these other houses just sitting there in limbo that he hasn't done
and they've
anything
probably been
with.
sitting there for a long, long time.
So
People that are
long.
like almost, and the interest rates skyrocketed as well. So
Yep.
imagine one of these people that you bought one of these things like 24 months ago, right? And you locked in your interest rate, and now your interest rate is you're locked in, is about to expire. You still don't have a house to live in. You're trying to pay for rent and like the increased mortgage now on your house.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a pretty. That's the bubble. That's the bubble. That's the burst of the bubble.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but from my understanding, I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but they went to SAT, and
What's that? Is that
SAT is like the State Administrative Tribunal, so they deal with all the building sort of stuff. Essentially, from my understanding, they were trying to remove his builder's registration or something like that, and if that builder's registration got removed, then the people that are stuck in limbo would have been able to use their home indemnity insurance, which would have paid out about $200,000, which they could have then used to get their build moving again.
Yeah.
But SAT, in like a last-minute Hail Mary, decided to reinstate his builder's license, which means they couldn't access the home indemnity insurance. So that means that everyone that was sitting there like, oh, we're about to get out of this, just completely got stuck again.
And the problem for a lot of those builds as well is that you get usually one builder. Like, well, they'll subdivide a lot. That's like a lot of the sort of stuff I've been seeing going on as well. Is like, industrial areas will get reacquisitioned or rezoned by the councils to residential, and they'll have like 2-3 hectares that they'll slice into 14 lots. So you got 4,000 square meters, and they'll slice them into so many 150, 200 square meter lots, and one builder will get like to build all of that together. And the way that they make their money is that then you got one hook up to the sewer, one hook up to power, all those things get done at the same time for all the houses that you've just sold. So what happens in a situation like that, like even if you get that insurance, you've got your insurance for your little lot, then you probably have to like make some agreement with all the other people that bought there as well to get a new builder to build all of them at the same time. Otherwise it's a massive loss on the back end.
Yeah, I guess if you're in a situation like that, but I'm pretty sure there's like people with just singular blocks that it literally it's just overgrown with like weeds and stuff because they've been sitting there that long. Some people started this in 2020 and still are just a slab. I just can't even believe this is a thing. SAT clearly doesn't care. Obviously, Niche Living is like trying to Phoenix with this other company now. And I'm just thinking, like, is there, without, like, this is just speculative, but how can a company get away with this? How can all this be going on and there's no repercussions at all? There's no jail time. There's no...
Yeah.
Like, it almost seems like a conspiracy to some extent.
We talked about in the previous episode how, like, the way these companies work. You asked me about, like, how the banks, like, get away with this, and I basically said, like, the CEOs of those banks, they don't give a shit if there's a big fall happening. Right? They've taken their payday. As a CEO, you just leave. You just quit. Most of them get severance pays anyway. As you say, you can Phoenix the company afterwards as well. Like, there's definitely no accountability for the directors as there should be, I think. And you said that they're trying to bring that thing in where you tie the director to a company, because if the company has lawsuits against it, malpractice against it, it can't just like go insolvent and then good luck, you're on your own. Maybe we do need that to come through.
No, it already has come through. But I don't think the effects of it haven't been seen yet. Yeah. But now, because any business that you register is tied to your director's ID, you can't Phoenix anymore because now they're associated. So your MyGov, you have to have a director's ID. Otherwise, you're not allowed to start something.
Like, I like that. And then you can't just like start a new one without any association to the old one either.
Correct.
Like, people will know pretty easily, like, oh, this new company's popped up. Let's look into them. As soon as you look into them, you go, okay, it's the same guy who just did this. That's fantastic. That's one of the few times where the bureaucratic process is kicked in the right way. That's a good thing to bring in.
Yeah, they've brought it in, but it's still too early to say if it's going to stop anything. But we'll see. There's always someone finding a loophole or doing something. But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, did you watch Friendly Geordie's had a video out as well about like the RBA and the government? He sort of explained
I
like
did see.
yeah, there's apparently just some sort of like petty feud that's going on between the RBA and the government.
And the Greens, right?
Yeah, well, the petty feud between the RBA and the government. So the Labor government criticised the RBA's handling of the whole thing and wants to set up like a separate committee that's like a monetary policy committee, and then they would set the interest rates, not the RBA, or at least they'll have input into it. So they'll take away some of the independence from the RBA, but like they need to pass that through, and they need the Greens' support to do so, and the Greens just won't come on board with it because they're just petulant and too ideologically driven to make a compromise. So we could be like fixing the RBA's mistakes in perpetuity moving forward if we just pass this legislation, and the Greens are like sabotaging it just because they want to flex their muscle and show their supporters that we've got power, we're serious, we mean business, we can bring everything to a standstill.
Yeah, it's all like a dick measuring
Yeah,
contest.
it's a massive pissing contest, and you got all these people who are like struggling to even like afford their houses, hoping for some relief, and you got the Greens who are like, no.
Yeah, I don't understand what is going on lately. It's so, it almost gives you like a lack of confidence in any sort of bureaucratic process, because you're like, man, you guys are just fucking around at this point. What are you guys even doing? I don't even understand. Apparently the inflation rates are reducing across the world, but they're not planning on reducing it in Australia, from my understanding of that
They're
video.
still holding it. So apparently they thought their household consumable inflation would increase. So they thought that demand was still really strong. The households were still buying services, buying things, and they like massively overestimated it because they didn't realize just how hurt people were. And instead, like, we're technically in a per capita recession. Like households aren't spending money. They don't have disposable income in every facet besides probably mining, I'd say, and government spending. Because right now what we have is this really weird dynamic where our governments are loaded up with cash because for mining and royalties and all these other things, and then they're spending and keeping like the economy going. But that's not how you want things to be working. You want there to be also like, just the private industry itself. You want there to be like a supply and demand just happening organically as well. And we don't have that. We'd be in a massive recession if our government stopped spending money. But the only reason our governments can spend money is because they're getting it from the mining. And you've got like, as soon as that slows down, this slows down, then we're completely fucked. We're like a proper recession if the government just stops spending money.
I don't know exactly how this works, but from my understanding, we're in a budget surplus. So that means that they have a surplus of money, and they're spending it on
infrastructure projects, like a lot of the sort of stuff I do as well. There's like legacy issues that have like stayed open for a long time that were just like too expensive, difficult to fix. They're putting the money into those sort of things. Battery farms, solar farms, all that sort of stuff. They're just putting heaps of money into that at the moment. And that's keeping that industry going because then, you got private consultant firms can access that money and you sort of keep the money pumping through the system. And then, but you don't have the demand in the private sector as you normally would because people can't afford things anymore.
Yeah, it's weird. I've read an article saying that they reckon rental prices are hitting sort of a limit because people just can't afford to pay anymore. It's not the fact that they don't want to put them up, it's just that people literally cannot afford to pay anymore.
And the thing is, well, is like we talked about in the previous ep, that that negative gearing thing, that's all fixed around like you can buy a house and have your mortgage repayments be greater than what you can charge in rent, and you can use that as a tax write-off. So you can get like tax benefits from that system. If they take that away, and you have an investment property that you're paying $1,600 a fortnight for, you're only renting it out for $1,200, you would then just purely be losing money on it. So people will try to ditch their investment properties ASAP because they're just bleeding money for them, which will completely drench the supply, and then the demand, like you'll have more supply and demand, and house prices will start dropping, which means the people who have investment properties will see the prices of their investment properties dropping at the same time as they can't make any money on them. They'll be even more desperate to sell, and you'll have that's the domino effect. That's the bubble bursting basically right there.
Yeah, that'll be the panic sell that's coming.
That'll be the panic sell that's
here's
coming.
the thing though, right? We're coming up to an election, aren't we? Very soon. So who would really make a decision like that? I don't think they would, because if you decide to take negative gearing away, you're pretty much costing yourself the election. If you decide to keep it in place, then you have this perpetual issue. So
which is also going to cost you an election.
That's also going to cost you the election.
Yeah, well, everyone's aware that if interest rates stay where they are, and this is where Labour government, I kind of feel sorry for them a bit as well, because you can either have really high interest rates or really high property prices. The real problem is when you have both, because then 7% off a $600,000 loan is killing everyone. Like that is, you're paying back 1.4, 1.5 million over 30 years for that property. Fucking insane for Perth, WA to be paying like 1.6 mil for average property in suburbia. That is insane. So Labour either want the RBA to start dropping interest rates before the election, or they need house prices to start dropping before election. So they just can't have it stay where it is. So that's why I think like they were leaking to the press that they're thinking about taking away negative gearing. And I think their hope was that alone, that little bit of uncertainty about it, would stop like the heavy investments into property, which it might do. It might spook enough people to go, okay, I might not put my money in here if this is about to get pulled away.
Yeah.
And maybe that will cool down the market in itself. I think the best thing I could probably do is stop bringing so many people in as well. But yeah, so I think that's what position that they're in.
Yeah, I don't know what about, like, because I was thinking, you know what, it's been a long time, maybe I should buy another house. But then I was like, listening to this negative gearing thing, because realistically, man, if I get another house, I'm going to negatively gear. If it's available to me to do, why would I actually not do it?
Yeah, in terms of like investment property?
Yeah. Like, because I would just keep this place and then just negatively gear this and then move to another place.
You can rent this out and
Yeah. If the option is available to me, then I will do it.
Yeah.
I think if they're going to have these random tax breaks and stuff, just because you want to be a good guy doesn't mean you shouldn't utilize them. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way things are set up.
Oh, of course. I have no animosity towards people who use the system the way it's meant to be used. Like, that's completely fine. The real problem is that negative gearing came in at a time when they wanted investment into Australian property. There was a time when they were trying to build the Australian economy. Like, it was needed, or at least you could argue that it was needed when it first came around. But the result of it now, like this massive inflation of property pricing, like you're making a bigger problem now. So it needs to get addressed, because you can't have $1.6, $1.7 million homes in suburbia, Perth, WA. Like it's not proportionate to the wages. Firstly, it's not proportionate to where you're living either.
Well, I saw a house in Sterling, and I think in 2016, I think it may have sold for like 700,000. And I had a look at the price guide, because there's a home open this weekend, dude. It's strongly recommended at 1.8. I was like, this is insane. Like, how can it jump that much? It's just a completely like fake price. It's not even real. And if someone buys that and then the prices do go down, that's going to have to get sold up anyway. Someone's going to lose money. It's going to be a disaster. It's at a really, really strange point right now. I feel like if I had bought a house 1 or 2 years ago, I wouldn't really care too much. But now I'm sort of at a point where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and the wild thing is, as you just said, like, if it went from 700,000 to 1.8 million, in how many years was that? Like 5 years?
Yeah.
Well, what this extra $1 million that just popped into existence, how are we not addressing that is the root cause of our inflation? Like, it's right there. That's it. That's a very inflated. That is like a 200% inflated asset right there in 5 years. So we talked about, inflation is where you just add more of the currency into circulation as well. Like, you devalue your dollar. You've just devalued what $700,000 means in Australia. You devalued it in 5 years. $700,000 used to mean this house in Sterling. Now it means a house in bumfuck nowhere, because you can't buy anything.
Yeah.
So what $700,000 is worth has completely disintegrated in Australia. Like, that's a problem. That's a problem. If you're collecting a salary and you're trying to like save money, and like all your efforts in the last 5 years have evaporated. They're non-existent. You might as well not have the money at all. It's worthless. You might as well burn it, use it for toilet paper. Like, it means jack shit now.
Yeah, well, do you know what's also interesting is that because houses have inflated, is that something of that value is not out of reach because I have so much equity now, which is just perpetuating the problem, because then I can use the equity to buy a house that's overinflated.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I don't even know how you get out of this unless everyone starts selling. But is that realistically going to happen? I don't think it will.
What I would love to see is that people who use it for like a revenue stream, I want that to sort of reduce itself. Right? People should first have a house to, it's that old saying as well, like everyone eats once before someone gets seconds. Like, that is like a very altruistic principle that we just do not apply to housing. Everyone gets one before someone gets a second one. No, we don't do that for housing. Instead, you got one guy who owns 46 properties, and then you got a bunch of homeless people. Like, we have a very weird view of what it means to have a house, and it's like it's a revenue stream, it's an investment. No, it should be first and foremost a roof over your head, a place to live. And then if you give people that, you can almost push like, all right, let's go back to like pushing people to have a family, and then we can not have this massive population collapse coming. Because people aren't going to have families, they're not going to settle down if they don't even have their own space.
Well, I think that to negatively gear something, though, don't you have to live in it for a year?
Do you have to own it for a year, I think, is it? Or do you have to live in it?
own it and live in it.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if you have to actually live in it as well. But yeah, but it's just like, one person owning all these properties, and so many people can't afford to even buy one. And the only person who benefits is, you said, like, yeah, you have equity now because this house has increased in value. But so is anything that you'd want to buy. So have you really gained anything?
No, you haven't gained anything, but you do get 2 properties. So you kind of have gained something.
Do you know who really gains, though? The people who make their profits from the marginal taxation of your purchase and sale of those properties. And I talked to you about this before. Like, if the government's cut or the council's cut is 5% of the purchase and sale, and the price just doubled, their profits have just doubled. Their revenue streams have just doubled. And this surplus that they talk about, a lot of that surplus is actually coming from the stamp duty process, because houses are so much more expensive. So every time someone buys a house, the government used to get, or the council, whoever it was that gets the stamp duty, used to get like, let's say $500,000 purchase, 3.5% stamp duty. They were getting like 6 or 7K. Now it's like $800,000 purchase, they're getting 10 to 11. Like on the banks who get for the interest rates, that's why they have record profits. The people who really benefit what's happening to us right now are the ones who are shaving off their little goddamn bit of the purchase and sell of the properties. That's what really pisses me off as well. Like, that's why nothing's changing. Like, it doesn't benefit you to have this house be $800,000 when anything you try to buy is now 1.1 million. It makes no benefit to you. Like, you might think that your net worth is increased by the value of the property, but the value of your dollar is dropped. You're in the exact same spot you were when you bought this thing for 400,000. Like, you're in no better position.
True. It technically, in terms of money, you haven't gained anything. But in terms of actually having land, you have gained land to some extent, because the house is pretty much worthless, right? To some extent.
But when the house was 400,000, you still you were still owned the land. Now the house is 800,000. Well, you still own the land, but like all the land prices around you have scaled at the exact same rate as yours has.
Yeah, I guess the difference would be is if it continued to scale and then you sold it. Then
and then you waited, and then it dropped, and you bought back in, and that's what people used to try to do. That's called timing the market. And when it comes to property, if you were trying to do that, you'd be holding on for the last like 10, 15 years, all the while you're renting and having your money siphoned off that way too. There's no real win on this one, I don't think.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting because even if you had a property, say 2018, and it's gone up this much, if you sold right now, you're essentially not making a profit still.
Especially if you tried to buy something else and you have to get another loan to top up the purchase, then you're paying fucking 4.65%. You're losing money. You've lost money. You would have been better off if your property stayed the same price as you bought it, and every other property stayed the same price as when you were buying yours. That would have been better off for you, especially when you pay percentage-based interest. And people don't realize that. They think, oh, I'm so happy my house went up by this and this and this. And I guess it must just fall into that feedback loop of like, it's not like a stock, for example. Stocks are very different. If your stock value goes up, great, you've actually made some profit, because your stock value went up despite everything else maybe staying the same. If you bought if you bought Tesla stock when it was $100 a share, it's now $250 a share. You've actually made money. You could sell that, buy a different stock that's still quite cheap, make more money. Houses aren't like that, because it's a broad scale
it's like a
property
market.
Thing,
right?
Do you know what I mean? It's like if you think about any other thing, like let's say you're a farmer, right? You sell your apples to buy bread. The price of your apples went up by a factor of 10, but so did the bread. Have you actually made anything? Oh, my apples are so valuable, but everything fucking else costs more. I have no extra money.
Yeah, I think the way to look at it is that the property market is just one stock.
Yeah.
So if you sell your stock, but the rest of
you
the
can't
stock
buy back in.
It's the same thing.
And then you're being hit by like the taxes on the sale, and you're being hit by taxes on the purchase. You look and go, that's one of the worst stocks I could possibly hold. Like,
so
my money's doing nothing.
You literally have a transaction fee to sell the stock, and then to buy back in, you have to pay the same amount.
And you're paying to hold the stock as
well. It's just crazy.
And you're paying to hold the stock too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, you're not even owning the stock It'll take you 30 years to fully own the stock, and even after that, you still pay like taxes and council rates and all the rest of this stuff as well. It's an absolute scam if you think about it, man. But if you don't partake, then you don't have a place to live and you're paying rent. And the only reason rent is even affordable right now is because we have negative gearing. If they take that away, rent won't be an option for you either, because rent will have to scale to people's interest rates.
Do you think that when someone invests in a house, like say like a overseas investor or a over east investor, they buy it and then they wait for it to go up, then they sell it? It's kind of like the reverse of like, because when you short a stock, you buy and you sell it straight away, but you still hold the stock, right? And then you buy back when it comes lower. Isn't that the equivalent of like shorting a stock?
Well, what I think that they might do here, and this is maybe me putting a bit of a tinfoil hat on as well, is that there's probably two things I think are happening. One is that it's dirty money getting cleaned through real estate. I think that's definitely, it's drug money, it's cartel money, it is definitely like dirty money getting cleaned through our real estate market. The other one is as well, is let's say you have unlimited amounts of money, right? Money means jack shit to you. You go to a place, you buy up all the property. You buy it for cash. You purchase it, you own it, right? But you buying that property, you've also inflated the cost of every other house around. You've brought it out of the scalable reach of most of the population that lives there. You've made them have to overextend themselves to get bank loans. So the banks make a lot more money out of that. So I can fully see a scenario where the people who buy out the property are inflating the price of their own property and then using like the increased value of that to then use that money and trade it around. All the while they keep regular people out the market as well. So it's like, for them it's just like a trick. It's, you know, I've got my dirty money, I bought property in it. If I keep buying property, the value of my other holdings go up. I can then take loans against the increased value of my holdings and do what I want with that money. So they never lose, right? So I think there might be a bit of that going on. Like they pump up their own balloon. It's like stock buybacks. Stock buybacks are the exact same concept, where your company makes a lot of money. All the people who work at the company own the stock. So they got profits at the company. They'll take that profit. They'll buy back their own stocks that they hold as well. So their stock values go up. Then they sell their stocks and live off that. So the profits are, and then most time they can get away from paying taxes for that as well. So it's very similar to stock buybacks, where I think for really wealthy people, that's how they treat the market.
Yeah, it's a weird time, man. If you go into like Reddit posts and stuff about like Oz Finance or like property markets in Perth, and people are like, I'm about to give up. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to own a house, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, fuck, that's crazy.
Yeah. I'm in a weird spot that I could, at any point in the last 5 years, I've got the money sitting there. I could buy a property, but I have just so little faith and trust in this process. And I can almost see it for what it is. And it is all about like, once that collapse happens and the economy really goes to shit and people start losing their jobs left, right, and center, because that's what the collapse would mean, you will forever have to pay back what you borrowed from the bank.
Mm-hmm.
That has no bearing to what the house is worth. There's nothing written in that contract that says if the house is worth 0 the next day, that you won't have to still try and pay back whatever you borrowed. So you can see yourself in a situation where you buy a house and you borrow $600,000, the house is $800,000, the house price drops to $500,000. You still owe 600. You will always owe 600. Let's say you can't pay back anymore because you lost your job. You have to sell the house. You sell for 500,000. You're homeless now. You don't have a house. You still owe the bank 100 grand.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's what happened to people in like the financial crisis in the States. In 2009, the housing crisis that happened over there. That's what was happening to people. They were losing their houses, selling them, not being able to sell them for enough to give back to the bank what they borrowed. Then the banks were going bust as well because of that deficit. Because, you know, no one could even afford to pay them back. People were destitute. People were bankrupt. So the banks foreclosed. The banks were then selling your debt to like really dodgy loan sharky type companies who will then hound you for any cent you ever make in any way, shape or form. Like, these people will be mobsters and gangsters, really. They would buy your debt from the bank for half price. The bank goes, this guy owes me 100 grand. I don't think I'm ever going to get it off him. Here, give me 10 grand. The debt, you own the debt now. Then you had these loan sharks and mobsters coming after you for the debt you previously owed the bank. And that was happening. And they were happy just to get anything from you because they only really have to get 10 grand to, you know, square up and be even. So that's what's happening to people. And people still haven't recovered from that. There's still people homeless all throughout America who you ask them, like, if you had just talked to some of them in the 50s and 60s, and you say, what happened to you? And they'll go, oh yeah, 2008, I thought I'd buy a property. I had a nice job. I had the money. Like I'm serious. Like, that happened to a lot of people.
I don't know.
So I'm very nervous about it because I look at what's happening now and it just really mimics that. It looks a lot like it. The only difference is this like guarantor thing that they've done is like, at least before, when people couldn't afford to pay back those bank loans, the banks had that deficit, they went under. But now it's like they're just gonna come after your parents' house.
Yeah.
You've like screwed your parents over as well. You screwed your whole bloodline. You know what I mean? Like it's really made it like that. That's what makes me really nervous about it.
So what do you think is the best course of action right now? Would you say hold off from buying, or if you're gonna buy, it has to be within your means, even though everything's inflated anyways, or do you?
It has to
wait
be
it
that.
out?
I'd say if you want to buy something, just make sure that if everything goes to shit, like you're not gonna take down people with you. That's probably the main thing.
This is not financial advice.
It's not financial
by the
advice.
way.
This is just general life advice.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna fuck up, don't fuck up everyone around you, and be really really cautious about guarantors. Like read the fine print. It is devilish the way they write those things. I know for a fact I've read through some of those contracts, and honestly, like the thing that blew my mind the most, which was like, let's say your parents could guarantor for 100 grand for your deposit because you're shy. You've got 20 grand, but you need 120, which is pretty standard for most people. Like, you know, if you're like in your early 20s or mid 20s, saving up 20 grand is still a pretty good accomplishment, to be honest. And if your salary's only 80 grand, that's pretty good. You're saving like, you know, 10% off your salary each year. You did all right. That's not too
good,
bad.
yeah.
You know, let's say so your parents go guarantors for 100 grand for you, right? Then you lose your job, or you can't afford. You go, look, I can't afford the payments anymore. I'm just gonna give up. I'm gonna foreclose. I'm gonna sell the house. What will then happen is that the bank would go, all right, your parents went guarantor. We want their property. They can force your parents to sell their property and then take the 100 grand. Let's say your parents are pretty well off. They've got 100 grand cash. They go to the bank and go, no, we've got the money right here. We'll give you this money. This is what we went guarantors for. The bank can refuse the actual money and force your parents to sell the home. They can force them. They can refuse the money up front because what you promised them was the house. And they won't, like, you can't just do it any other way.
Which is crazy because technically they understand that money is valueless. It's the land and the property that is worth something.
Yeah, and forcing that house to go back through the sale and purchase property makes everyone money. The bank will make money on the resale because they'll refinance. All these things will happen. But your parents, who probably bought their house 30, 40 years ago for close to nothing, you know, don't even have interest anymore. The bank doesn't make any money off them. But by pulling their house back through the process, they can then make money off that property again.
Because if you think about it, they could have even paid the house off potentially.
Most likely,
right?
yeah, they would, yeah. Yeah, which is crazy because if you have the house paid off, you could just get a loan on the property value to pay back what you went guarantor for. But the bank can say, no. We can force you to sell it to claim the money that we want.
Do you think there's any reason to pay for anything in cash then, realistically?
In terms of, like, I think if you want to be, like, really hyper wealthy, I've seen a lot of people talk about, like, you just trade in debt. It's loan and debt. I'm not at that stage in my life yet. I'm probably a good decade away from playing that game. But that's what a lot of wealthy people do. They never pay anything with cash.
I think about the same thing. It's like, so I just like bought my car outright, but then I was like, should I have just got it on a loan and then just like
that's what I did.
kept the money myself and then just paid because there's interest as well, right? But then I could have just paid half of it and then just got a loan for the rest of the other half.
Well, people say that, you know, cash is trash type of thing as well. And what that means is if you're just holding money in your account, that's the worst thing you could probably do it for. You rather want to invest it into something, like make your money, try to make money for you. You can invest it into like the S&P 500, where it's, you know, the 500 biggest companies, and that steadily tracks up over time. It takes like almost like a global event, like a world war, to really battle that stock or something like that. So you could just do that with it. But when I purchased my car, I went through like a lease option because what I realized was if I want to buy a car outright, so I've got like the money I get paid, right? It's already been taxed before it gets in my pocket. If I then go to buy something with that money, so I've already lost about 30 cents to the dollar. I've lost 30% of my money just by the time it hits my account.
Yep.
Then if I go buy something, I'm paying the 15% GST. So whatever I buy with my money that's already been taxed is 15% more expensive just through the GST. So if I think about a car purchase, you've got your fuel, you got your registration, you got your insurances. All those things are 30% more expensive if you buy them with money that's already been taxed. That's how you need to start thinking about it. So if you get them through a lease, they're 30% cheaper across the board. Every single facet of it is 30% cheaper. Not to mention your overall taxable income reduces as well. So you save money on that front too. And once I did all the math and ran all the numbers, god damn, that was cheaper. It was a lot cheaper to get it for a lease than to buy it outright.
I don't think if I own a car though, I can't put it on a lease though, can I?
If you have a finance for it, you could.
Yeah, if it was already financed,
Yeah.
but because I own the car completely.
Because you
now.
own it, you can't. Unfortunately, you have to have a purchase.
Mm,
But then, yeah,
interesting.
so my fuel, my registration, my insurances, all those things, servicing, all of that is now 30% cheaper for me because I'm paying for all of that with money that hasn't yet been taxed.
Yes,
And
I see what you
30%
mean.
is like generous. It's close to probably 45% because it's siphoning off the upper margins of my taxable income, which I get taxed at like the 45 cents to the dollar. So it's actually 45% cheaper for me because it brings my overall taxable income into the lower bracket as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Hey, when you think about that.
But the numbers shocked me, man. I was like, this
Mm.
can't be fucking right. I was asking other people to check my math. I'm like, have I missed something here? Because this is ridiculous. Like, the worst way for me to purchase the vehicle was to get a car loan. Because a car loan hits you with interest on what you've borrowed, and you're paying back with money that's already been taxed. My lord, was that the worst option. That was the worst option by about 40 Gs over 5 years. The worst possible option. Because then I still have to pay for all the other items with post-tax income. And if I bought it outright, 60 grand my car's value. If I bought it outright, that's money I then can't invest. That's money I then can't get interest on if I keep it in a fixed term deposit,
True.
which was making me money. And then I also would pay the GST, which was like $6,500, $7,000 on the purchase. And then I still have to pay for rego, insurance, all those items with my post-tax income. So the lease was about $40,000 cheaper over 5 years.
Yeah, so essentially what you're doing is that you're getting the money taken off of you for the car prior to getting taxed. So
it's
you
on
don't
your
actually,
payroll, like your company does it for you. It's like a sacrifices. So as far as the government's aware, I did make that money.
Yep. So and then because of that, it also reduces your tax bracket down as well.
Yep.
So you're paying less interest overall because the money that you're technically earning has been reduced. So if you're earning $100,000, now it's dropped you down into $80,000, right?
So it's like it's a $20,000 salary sacrifice to pay off, or 18,000 or so. So, but because it's coming from my pre-tax income, I'm only seeing a reduction in my actual like normal pay by whatever 60% of that value. So it only takes away 10 grand of my actual real world money each year, because the government was getting that money anyway. I wasn't seeing that money.
Yeah. And it's interesting as well because if you're teetering between two brackets, that can potentially reduce your income tax as well.
So the best way I can say is like this last year, just not to give too many personal information away, but last year I paid roughly about 50K in tax. So this year with the lease, because I got it in 1st of July, just to see as well, I'm tracking, even though my income's the same, I'm tracking to only pay about 22,000 in tax.
Yeah, it's a huge reduction.
$28,000 less in tax. That is incredible. That is just like that's I know the tax changes that they made for everyone accounted for about $5 grand of that, by the way. So even you were going to pay $5 grand less taxes this year because the government did those tax changes. But still, that's insane. And with the lease as well, I have to pay the value of the dutiable value of the car after 5 years to own it, which is 28% of the purchase price. So for my car, that's going to be about 18 grand I'll have to pay off in 5 years' time to own the car after that. It's saved me 40,000 at least. So I'm still going to be like 22K in the green, and I get a new car, and I get to drive it around over the next 5 years.
Yeah, it seems like it makes the most sense as the option to take, doesn't it?
Yeah, just because of how things are right now, with like interest rates. You're trying to get a car loan at fucking 8%. Good luck, man. Good luck getting it bled dry. Like I would have paid back, I think it was 110K on that car if I got a car loan.
Yeah,
over 5 years. That is insane. It's almost double the price of the car.
$110,000 you have paid back
over 5 years.
Over 5 years.
If I got the car on a loan.
That's
at 8%.
crazy.
Yeah. It's like 38, 40 something $1,000 off interest, and then the GST on the purchase. But instead, this whole car is only going to cost me about 50 grand over 5 years for lease. That's for my insurance cover. It's crazy.
Man,
Once again, not
I
financial
shouldn't
advice.
have bought my car
Yeah.
outright.
Yeah, once again, not financial advice, but like if you run through the numbers the way I did, nothing else made sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know how we got onto this, but we were talking.
But that was a
about
fascinating
that was interesting, actually. But we're talking about the niche living guy getting into a punch on.
Yeah.
But essentially, yeah, that's
What-
the state of affairs in Australia right now, in Perth at least, anyways.
We're teetering on the brink, basically, on the property market. But I did want to talk about, the episode is called as well, Diddler on the Roof.
Yeah, go on, break
yeah.
it down then.
Finally get to break it down. So, after all the publicity happened of the guy, like Diddy getting arrested and he's behind bars.
Be careful with the words that you use as well, because if you use particular words, then we're going to get censored. So
yes, I'll be
if
very
you
careful.
can, try and use like an acronym or
Yeah.
a
PDF, for
pseudonym
example.
or something. Yeah.
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
All right, so let me this. He's knocked over his ball. So I think all this happened because Diddy is now behind bars. People finally have a bit more courage to come out and speak out, because it's finally wherever the damn wall was that was keeping everything hush hush about this has just burst. So there's this lawyer who came out and did a press conference, and bro, he legit said like his law firm has received over 3,500 separate reports of victims of Diddy's. 3,500 calls since his arrest. People want to come forward with evidence. And he did his press conference where he talks about it, and he's like, the evidence that we have received is staggering. And he said out of that 3,500, there was at least 120 people, 60 men, 60 women. There's that many victims that they can split them up by genders. 60 men, 60 women, all who have such a strong case that the lawyer is confident they can take it to a lawsuit, to a civil suit. So they have photographs, videos, proper evidence of what was going on there. And he basically said, like, the victims are the 120 people that he has here. 25 of them were like minors, were underage at the time things were happening. The youngest was 9 years old. So me always talked about this before, that we think that there's this like blackmail ring, the PDF files running music, Hollywood, industry, politics. Like, this is almost certainly another Epstein situation. Like, that is remarkable. So one law firm, 3,500 submitted claims of evidence of people who are victims. Like, some of those people might just be, BSing, trying to get famous, whatever you want to say, but like some of them might just not have good evidence either. They might say, look, this is what happened to me. I've got no way to prove it, but I want to put my name forward. So out of these 60 men, 60 women, and he said that they're going to treat each one as an individual case. It's going to go to court. And the other people that are implicated, mate, there is like a long list of politicians, celebrities, media figures, all these people who are involved. Out of these 120 people, they're not just all suing Diddy. There's Diddy and other people who partook, other people who joined in, all these things, man. And it's absolutely wild. Like, it is going off.
So
Going off.
Just to touch on that there, and just bring the mic just slightly closer to your mouth. That way we make sure we get in the green zone there. But what I heard was an interesting take, is that more than likely any celebrity that was involved in this isn't actually going to get in trouble, but whoever was running this show or whoever gave Diddy this power to do this is going to use whatever tapes they have against them to force them to say what they want them to say.
Which I think has already been happening. And the thing I heard today when I was like, there was a podcast. It's called Podcast of Lotus Eater. They're really good on YouTube. I listen to them. But the guy said that his take on the world now is that if you ever see a politician or a celebrity or anyone do something that just seems a bit odd, where you're like, why do they do that? It doesn't make any sense. Just assume that there's some video of them doing some inappropriate things with minors. Just assume that has to just be the assumption now. That is the way the world works. That is the real currency. The currency is blackmail and, complicit material. That is the real stuff that gets traded. That's what really has value. And that's not a new thing, man. That's been around for ages. That's always been the case. You have your court of whisperers in Game of Thrones, Littlefinger, and the other. They always used to be a thing that people traded in whispers, innuendos, and secrets. It was always a currency. That never stopped. I don't know why we all assume that just stopped in the 21st century.
I think the part that's strange is that it was Diddy, like of all like people. But then, what's more interesting to me is that, okay, Diddy is this agent or whatever, but then now the whole Biggie got killed by the CIA or the FBI, and then Tupac as well, and it was sort of this joint effort. Like now, it makes me question that stuff. Like, was Diddy actually involved in all that? And
I'd say almost certainly, because there was a time, I don't know if you remember, like, I just know about the Chicago bombings as well that happened.
yeah, I know
Black
a little
Panthers
bit.
and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
There was definitely a point where I think during Vietnam War as well, where a lot of that intelligentsia got set up to counter the sort of black independent movement that was happening in America. They were seen as like the enemy of the government for a good long time there. So it just makes sense that they would establish this figure in there that his whole sole purpose was to have control of the culture. That's what Diddy was. Right, he was also just an absolute freak from the sounds of it, like a very disturbed individual. Like, his dad was like a convicted gangster as well, who died when Diddy was 2. Like, all this backstory to him is actually wild. But I think he was just a freak in general, like a Bill Cosby-esque type of character who liked to drug people and do things to them. There's reports even when he was in university for a while, he did college over there. He did the same thing. He used to have college parties even when he was a younger man. But I think that they co-opted him for that sole reason. And we talked about it in one of the earliest podcast episodes we did, like maybe the second or third one I had with you. We're trying to figure out why they went after Andrew Tate so much. Bold man bad, we called it that episode. It was quite a good one. But we talked about a thing where nothing concerns the powerful more than an influential figure that they don't have control over. Like, if you fall underneath that, like, influential figure who has an audience and people will listen to, and they don't have a way to co-opt you, you must be destroyed. And that's why whenever you have these, social media seem to be, I think that they're really struggling to clamp down on, because anyone can pop up and have an audience. Anyone can have an influence. But maybe the people that we see, everyone who becomes really famous and successful, everyone who gets favored by the algorithm, may already be co-opted. Anyone who's not, anyone who's just a regular person, can only ever get so far through the system if they don't have a way to control you. Which would be absolutely crazy if that's the case, but I think it might be. I think everything's just everything's fake. I think every famous person you see, every influential person you see, I think that you only see them because you're allowed to see them.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. It's kind of ties into that dead internet theory. Well, I don't know if you saw that video, even though I'm not a massive fan of Destiny, but he had that thing where he was going through, and I don't know if you probably didn't see the video, but it was him on his live stream, and anyways, they were getting like a whole bunch of hate and stuff, and he was replying to people on X, and he was like, man, these guys are replying to me, but some of the stuff they say is really weird. So anyways, he looked at their profiles, and the more he looked into it, it almost seemed like it was really advanced AI bots responding to him. Like, even roasting him on topics that actually would make sense, but then saying really strange stuff afterwards. And anyways, he went through a whole bunch of these different profiles or accounts, and he noticed that they would all talk to each other, but it was all like this really weird stuff. And then when he went to the account and he would click on the account and then search the image of the pictures that they'd uploaded, it would tie into these things that were just completely not relevant to this person, even though it said, like, this guy is a doctor. And they looked at the photo, and then they reverse image searched the photo, and it was like some guy that had gone to jail.
Yeah. Just some stock images, right?
Yeah, and it was just like, what is going on here? So then, after he was looking into that, there was this other guy that someone linked. It was like, I can't remember, it was like Chikolian. I can't even remember the fucking name. It was such a weird name. But he had these full YouTube videos, and apparently he was like associated with the president and all this sort of stuff. And they were looking at him, and they were like, man, this guy doesn't even seem real. Like, and they were watching the videos, and his hands weren't moving that much, and the way he spoke was a little bit strange. So anyways, they kept looking into him, and they were looking at pictures that he'd posted. And in one of the pictures, it was like him standing with these two other guys. And then in the background, they were like, look at the photos that he's got on the wall, and look at the books. And none of the books had names on them, and all the photos like had blurred faces. Jeez. And it was like, what is like? Yeah. But this person's got like thousands of videos and full like all of this stuff that should be verifiable, right? So then they were like, what the hell? And then out of nowhere during the live stream chat when they were looking at this, someone was like, oh, this guy is real. Like, check this out. He had this court case where he was getting sued by the FBI, blah, blah, blah. So some random person just posted this in there, and then someone checked the link. So anyways, it had this like random court case with his name in it, and this weird sort of case that was going on that apparently it was getting
It's just
sued
a fucking
from.
AI article
right?
that generated around it.
So they
Jesus.
looked into the profile that posted it, and it had been made like maybe minutes earlier, and it was something about Destiny, like the name, and then when the guy posted it, this article or like this file that came off the FBI website, apparently, like none of it made sense. It didn't have the same font that any of the documents would use. And it was all sort of made within like minutes of them looking at this guy that apparently people think was fake. And then when they tried to tie it back to him, like who this was, none of it made any sense. And it was like happening live
Yeah.
on stream. It was this really strange thing that happened.
Yeah, bro, that is absolutely wild. Like, I remember I sent you the video as well. Like those factory farms that make the videos. You know, it's like a big warehouse in India. And there's some in China as well. And it's a big 2-story warehouse. So imagine like this 2-story warehouse with all these like little cubicles, right? Every cubicle has its own lighting, and they're all made to look like the sets of someone's room or kitchen or backyard. You know what I mean? They're all like completely fabricated. It has a person there with a camera in front of them making content. They're content farms. None of it's real. If you're watching, you would think it's someone like in their fucking bedroom talking to you, or behind like a desk, or what we have here. Like, imagine if you zoomed out of me and Louis right now. Louis, do the dual cam of the two of us.
Oh, this one.
Like, imagine if you see this right now and you're watching us and you're like, oh, great, like, it's just these two guys sitting around a table talking. And you zoom out and you find out that this room stops right behind my head, stops right behind his head, and then there's like hundreds of other rooms like this
And they're all
around.
just sitting in this one
And
warehouse.
we're all given a script, and we're all being told what to say, who to promote, how to promote them. It's all fake. It's all fake. And they could do that for a long, long time because you don't need AI for that. But now you got AI that can like, you could generate our faces saying things that we don't even think or feel or want to say and post it. And then you can have the bots generate that content, puff it up, and make it go viral. So to anyone like who might see us and hear us on here, just know you're one of the few times you might be listening to a real person saying a real thing.
Yeah.
And all the people we watch and listen to, like this era, this age of blackmail and, you know, extortion that we've lived through is all to like keep down a real person who has influence or to control what they say. I think that's not even needed anymore. I think it's way cheaper and way more efficient just to control what is allowed to be seen. And I think that's where we're at. That's the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, it's hard.
Is anyone real? Is anyone you watch
it's
on
so
YouTube
hard
real?
to tell because you watch stuff, but you're looking at a screen of what you think is a reality of someone's, but who knows? Like, we might not even be real.
Are you able to find that? If you can find that on YouTube, just the one with the farms, actually show people. Are we able to do that? Like,
we might be able to. I actually wanted to show you the Destiny, like.
I'm just not a fan of Destiny though. I think he's a bit of a.
I know. I don't like him either, but I wanted you to see. I don't know if there's like.
Oh, how about that one? There's a flagrant clips one. I like that. They're good. If you go through the same thing.
Yeah, but I don't want to get like copyright struck.
Yeah, fair enough. The one I was thinking of showing you was just like it only goes for about 10 or so seconds. And it just has like someone doing a selfie recording of one of these studios, these content farms. You've seen the video, right?
Like
just go
warehouse.
content farms. Just content farm. I think you should be able to see it pretty easy on there. It's like content farm. Yeah. See if you can find like a short of it. No, I remember saying it to
We'll
you.
have to queue this stuff up, hey, because it's so much easier.
Definitely have queue. I'll have a link somewhere, but that's I didn't even know about that one. That's a one in China as well.
I wonder if I could.
They
just
call it
quickly
an
bring this up on the
influencer
screen.
factory. Yeah, see if you can just share that as a screen for people to see, like, have us react to it.
We do a react stream.
Oh, nice.
Just let me bring it.
Yeah, bear with us, guys. We're just trying to show you something on here as well. This is Louis on the tech support here. Oh no, so close.
What's the screen? That's the wrong one, I think. Oh, that
From when
one
you have
there.
Hey, there we go. All right, cool. Let's go go back on that one if you can. And just see them at the start there. Literally just has basically like all these people like all have the same camera. They're all in the same place. They're all like, you know, reacting to products, doing makeup tutorials. But there's another one, the one in I think it's India, that just has like these fake rooms set up. It's so bizarre that they try to make everything look like organic and real, and it was very
But
disturbing.
that's kind of like how they film like porn studios as
Yeah.
well, right? They're exactly
Yeah.
the same. They've just taken like the porn studio sort of thing.
Yeah. But it's that idea that, you know, you think you're seeing real people, you think you're reacting to real people, and it's just like, you know, it's complete fabrication. If you go through, is that
Have you seen this one?
Yeah, they're so weird. I don't understand. Like, what is the
She just
point?
like opens it, like,
know.
check this out, go
Does
on.
anyone even like buying these? Is it about the photograph that they take as a still image? Like what?
Like, I think it's because she's getting so many followers.
Yeah.
She can, like, just the
Give-
the
are
mere
there
fact that it's
giveaways?
putting it in, and then people are like, oh, what was that one? Which one was this one? And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I actually really like that one, or
Do
something.
you want to put
like that.
my have the jewel or one single?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
2 seconds.
that's all good.
I'll bring your one up as well.
But I just need to see if we can find this one of with the India one with actual like proper rooms.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
have to see if I can find it. Where's your camera there?
No, there you go, that's good. Sweet. Nice.
Good you and me there. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit weird, man. This whole thing, but like, yeah.
So what we're talking about there is like, you know, with all the people that you do see who become famous, like Russell Brand, even let's say, there's really weird ones. Do you know a guy called Suge Knight?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Suge
he's
Knight,
in prison at the moment
yeah,
for,
yeah.
like, for manslaughter, I think.
Yeah, he was apparently associated with the whole like killing of Biggie
Yeah.
and Tupac and
Do-
stuff.
Put just go on like a Google, like open up a Mozilla just to search Suge Knight egg test. Ooh, sorry. This was weird. As I want to discuss, I wasn't sure if I actually want to talk about this one, but it's one of the weirdest claims about P Diddy, and this was like a while ago.
What's
he
this
said-
Suge Knight egg test?
Yeah. So let me just break this
Boiled
down for you,
egg
right?
Test.
So what they say is like, basically, this is what they'll do is like an initiation sort of thing in the P Diddy circles, which was if you wanted to like be in the group, what they will do, they'll get a boiled egg, they'll put it in someone's ass, and if the egg cracks, they're not ready. That's what they'll say. So I think the idea is that you have to like fucking get yourself abused so much that you can have the egg go in and out without breaking.
What? That can't be real.
And that's what Suge Knight said, that's what
Surely
they used to
not.
do.
Let me read this.
So read this, put the
Knight chatted with.
yeah, they used to take a raw
Hold on,
boiled egg.
let me. Knight chatted with Cuomo for News Nation via prison phone call earlier this week, where he revealed some disturbing details about one of the alleged hazing rituals. They used to have these guys. They used to call it the boiled egg test. He explained. They used to take a boiled egg, a raw boiled egg. They had those guys put it in their pants down. Oh, sorry, put their pants down and bend over, and they stick it up their ass. The eggs break. They say they're not ready yet. They ain't put enough work in. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, this is fucking wild.
So
But
then
if this is
now
even
do this.
true,
Now do this as well. Just go Russell Brand P Diddy egg. There's a photo from a random Diddy party. It has Russell Brand like embracing P Diddy and holding an egg, and it's one of the weirdest photos that makes no sense.
is that true?
Yeah, there is true. Just put it.
Just
put
let
it in
me
Google as
let me
well.
finish this here. Cuomo was blown away with this claim. So everybody go act like they don't know what's going on. Knight added. Cuomo went to note that he'd never heard of the alleged ritual. Hold on a second, but if you just look, that's all you got to do. I've never heard of anything like that. According to Knight, however, it might have allegedly been captured on video. So if I haven't heard about it, just assume a lot of people haven't heard about that before, but you think it's on video.
Yeah, the rest of that is just like the freaking article and the interview, but you know
So
that's the claim anyway. And Suge Knight had heaps of claims about Diddy back in the day as well. But see if you just find this one with Russell Brand P Diddy egg photo.
Yeah, that's wild. Because now, like, Russell Brand is like considered to be.
There's a photo from party where he's holding an egg. I've saw it before. See if you can scroll through. He's wearing white. I think that might be down there. It might just be a bit further down. See if I might have that one there. What the hell is that? What a weird thing, man. What a weird thing,
It is
right?
weird. But this
What
is,
a weird
is this,
thing.
Is this one of his parties or what?
I think that there might be multiple photos of him holding an egg with Diddy as well.
No,
that's different to the one
get
I
him
saw.
to the Greek premiere, but why?
I don't know, man. What is it about the symbolism of him Do you know what I mean? And we just talked about what the initiation was that they had to pass was that they would, do the egg test. And
That was at the premiere of Get Him to the Greek, though,
But
right?
bro,
So that could be.
he's with Diddy. He's posing, holding an egg, and there's claims from like a while back before that that's what they used to do. It just seems to be a very weird thing, doesn't it?
What happens if we type in like PDD
Egg photo. See if there's anyone else. Is
Egg
this a common
ritual.
thing? Like, Jesus Christ. But that's a freaking weird one. Yeah, there's other photos of Diddy smiling. This even might be just AI. Probably with AI is as well. It's like it's hard to like know what's a real photo, what isn't. But there's definitely a photo of Russell Brand holding. And Russell Brand has gone like heavily to Christ now, like religious, as if he's seen some really dark shit as well. Do you know what I mean? But how weird is that?
It is strange, but I don't know if that's enough evidence to say like.
Oh, it's not
yeah,
about
this
evidence.
is
I'm saying it seemed very sketchy to me when I'm like, I saw that.
Like, was there something to do with Get Him to the Greek about eggs? I haven't seen.
No, I've seen the movie.
But like, Diddy chases him and Jonah Hill in the movie, right?
Does he?
Yeah, he I haven't seen it, but I saw like someone said, "Oh, isn't this scene ironic after all these years?" And apparently they're like running away from Diddy in a hotel room or something.
Does anyone remember like the movie? Is there anything for the egg in there? I don't think that there was, but we do know there's a claim that these. How weird is that as a ritual as well, bro? It's so fucking disturbing, man.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like P Diddy egg scene. Get Him to the Greek.
I wonder if there is. I don't know. I think it's also very suspicious to me that at the time this is happening with Jonah Hill and Russell Brand in a movie with him, like P Diddy was already pretty heavy into like, do you know what I mean? That sort of stuff. And they just like filmed a movie with him.
Look, I'm just gonna bring this up quickly just so we can see.
Yeah.
What exactly is going on here?
What are you lining up just to playing the Diddy clip from the movie?
Yeah, I just want to see. I want to get the browser up. I don't know why the browser's not showing up. I had it up before, didn't I?
Yeah, it was we could see it just a second ago.
Weird. No, I don't know why I can't get that up, but that's strange.
It was up there before, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I don't know why it's not coming up now. What's on YouTube?
I can pause it.
Yeah.
Try and actually let's put this on stream as well because that's a really good. I completely forgot he was in this movie. Try and you might need to make a new one maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Nice.
There we go.
Well, that's on. All right. Just close that. Yeah, there you go. All right, let's full screen that. Let's just see this.
I'm sorry, Pops, you okay?
What are you doing, bro?
Now this is what the music industry is all about.
Sergio's go crazy.
I love this game!
He's Jeffrey. Let's go! Bye!
No, I don't think so. You're not crazy! I've never run so fast in my life!
I don't have my luggage!
Your luggage will get you new luggage! Where you going? Run all the way back to LA!
Sergio is chasing us!
This is the longest hallway of all time!
It's Kubrickian!
You cannot outrun me! I am black!
Is that the whole
That
scene?
was the whole scene, yeah. I don't know exactly. how
Bro,
that comes
nothing to
about.
do with an egg, man.
It is weird, eh?
Why is he posing with more than an egg?
I've got no clue, man.
It's starting to make me question, like, Russell Brand's, like, quite popular now. If his channel has always got 5-something million subscribers on YouTube. Like, is there incriminating evidence of Russell Brand?
I don't know. Who knows? I mean, he did say that he was into some pretty wild shit before, like, and he's changed now.
But there's being into wild shit and there's being like
but he would. Do you think he would have spoke out about it before? Like, do you think he wouldn't have spoke out in worry about getting?
the problem I think that happens with this stuff is as well is that they compromise you in something that's like life ruining for you if it comes out. If there's video footage of them putting a fucking egg up Russell Brand's ass and he speaks up and that gets like released, do you know what I mean? That's done.
Yeah.
That's done, bro. You are now like fucking. you know, egg ass guy. Like that's it. You're done. You don't recover from that.
But I just don't.
There's no recovery from that, bro.
like these other people that rocked up to these these events and shit.
Mm.
Like what even?
Well,
What even
Kevin
can-
Hart has a lot of video footage of Kevin Hart at those events, man.
Oh,
There's him
man, not
emceeing
Kevin.
one of them with like naked women around. Like there's leaked. You can actually find it quite easy. There's some leaked footage of him, and one of them as well. He's like asking the guy like reframe his camera angle so the bed can't be seen. He's like, no, get the bed out the frame, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell is going on in this room, man? I think Kevin Hart is sweating hard, man.
I just don't want to believe that these guys were all doing this wild shit.
Leonardo
and
DiCaprio as well. I think.
Leonardo DiCaprio,
Ashton
that
Kutcher.
makes more sense. Ashton Kutcher, but he left that scene though, right?
And now he's doing everything he can to combat like child trafficking, but I think that might be from a place of guilt now. I think as well, which would make sense. Imagine that, like, if you did like get yourself out of that. I kind of feel bad for those guys as well because it's like if that was just what it took to get yourself, you know, to get famous. What happened to Justin Bieber as well? What happened to Usher? Usher was like 13 years old. He had like parental custodianship of him when he was 13. And Usher said he used to see some weird shit when he was like a kid in like Diddy's house. So I think some weird shit happened to him. Weird shit happened to Bieber as well. And I think Bieber got like massively abused through all that.
This is all just speculation though. Like we don't actually know.
Yeah,
This is all just like
it's all speculation, but there are 120 civil plaintiffs.
yeah. I don't
as
know.
young as
I
9.
wouldn't make any sort of concrete fucking. You know, it's just there's just some
There-
strange
there's
stuff
enough-
associated.
There's
around
enough
it.
that's put Diddy in prison without bail. Let's leave it at that. Like, there's enough of a case there that they saw and they went, okay, yeah, no, he's very guilty of quite a few things. To put him without bail is pretty, pretty big. They're holding him in the same place that Epstein was held, which is also another thing. Like, we know this stuff happens. Like, we know what happened with Epstein. You know, Ghislaine Maxwell is guilty of trafficking, but we don't know to who.
Yeah, I still find that weird that after all this time they haven't released any lists. We don't know who was going and they obviously have the lists now. I find that just so insane.
Yeah, well, Diddy's one as well. What I was reading about was that apparently he had like, you know, the prostitutes, or whoever he had at those things, like the sex workers, he had them all fitted with cameras, like the cameras on their bras, cameras in like their hair clips and stuff like that. So he has like close footage of all the things that these powerful people were getting involved in, like close up. Like if you think like a nude leak is bad for a celebrity, like the stuff that they have on them is career ending across the board. I think that's the point. So now when you see like, you know, J-Lo or Taylor Swift comes out and endorses Kamala Harris, like all these things that you keep seeing, just think to yourself like, well, why are they doing this? It's very possible that there's compromising material on them, and that's why they do what they do. That has to be the game, right? There has to be a political side to it as well. You want to wield their influence the way you want it wielded. So who's wielding the influence?
Well, it's interesting because if that is actually true, then, you know, like, not to say everything that Alex Jones says is true, but seeing that video about him speak about 9/11 before, like 6 weeks before it happened, and then saying they're going to try and blow something up, you know, they're going to try and the World Trade Center, and they're probably going to try and blame it on a guy called Osama bin Laden. I was just like, bro, this is fucking wild. Like, I can't even believe that that's a real thing.
There's a video, legitimately, there's a video of Jesse Ventura, who's like a US politician as well, but he was also like similar to Alex Jones type of figure, where he was like an independent journalist, I think, for a while. But there's a video, I think it's like 2018, of someone coming to him, like a undercover sort of thing, and saying like, hey, they're going to release a virus. The whole plan is to push a vaccine. The vaccine's experimental. It's going to be dangerous. There's this lady just like giving him the whole blueprint of what happened with COVID. So it's going to come from China. It's absolutely crazy. I need to try to send you out of the pod just to make sure I hunt this video down still. But yeah, it's like the thing was known. It was known that was their plan. I remember I showed you when I did my big deep dive on that, I said that there was the virus that it's based on, the one recovered from the bat, was recovered in like 2011. And they had it for a while, and they're just waiting for a time to release it. That was my theory on it anyway. But there was actually this lady who came to him and gave him all the information. It was on YouTube. Same as Alex Jones stuff. Like, how many of these big events are like planned? Like pre-planned, all psyops.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even like if the dead internet theory is real, then like essentially, if you think about this, like the TV is the precursor to that, right? Like if the dead internet theory is where we're at now, then the internet and TV and stuff like that would have just been a precursor for all this sort of stuff. to some extent.
Oh, I think so. I think there's heaps of they've been manufacturing consent. I think is what they do. That's why all the media organizations, all your news, so they all parrot the same lies. It's all about like getting you to go along with, and you can think like if you want to think of it a spiritual sense. Andrew Tate talks about like the Luciferian believers, the actual devil worshippers. Their whole thing is that you have to consent to what they're doing. I don't know why that karmic retribution thing that they have, that philosophy that they have, is that you need to be aware of what they're doing, has to be out in the open, and then you have to do nothing about it. Then that absolves them of the moral guilt of their actions. Because good people saw it, good people did nothing. It's like a weird, like, I don't know why these powerful people operate on such like a spiritual way. Like, it doesn't make much sense to me. Like, if you just want to look at everything from a purely factual atheist basis, good for you. But the really powerful people in the world don't seem to be doing that. They seem to have some weird sort of freaking, religious stake in all their actions.
Do you know what's really interesting is when we did that deep dive on like the Templar Knights and stuff, and how they all just sort of disappeared from existence, and then what was the other group that would like disappeared?
Yeah. And then they started popping up again. Like they disappeared because was the king of France, I think, was going after them, so they disappeared. But they kept popping up again over like 300 years. I think it was like the precursor of the Illuminati. I can't remember what their name was.
That's right, yeah. It was the Illuminati, right?
Yeah.
And the like, I just wonder, like, does a group like that just disappear, or do they just go into the shadows? Like, is the world just as boring as we think it is, and it's all just by accident, or is there this actual, like, secret society that's been existing for all this time still operating, or is it just like make believe? Like, it's so interesting to me.
Well, bro, that Georgia Guidestones thing is big. When we went to the deep dive in that, where they wanted the population of the world to go down to, was it 500 million? They had the WF talking about overpopulation, how we can fix it in 2015, and now you've got like collapsing birth rates all across the board. It seems to me like,
Oh, do you know what I saw this morning on TV, right? I saw it was this lady, she was like this researcher or something, and she was saying like, talking about how there's older women going back into the dating pool now and stuff, and it's not as frowned upon to like get a divorce, blah blah blah. Which, like, look, if you're in an abusive relationship, I'm completely fine with you getting a divorce, whatever. I don't think that you should stay with the person just because you got married. But she goes like, the data shows actually that women that are single and don't have children and just focus on their career are way happier than women that do. And I was like, is there actually any evidence to show that, or is she just like pulling this out of her ass? Like, is that true? I don't know.
I have a theory about this, and this is a real problem with asking someone if they're happy, right? If you want to get a good response of whether or not someone's happy, give them some MDMA and ask them in 30 minutes. You will get 100% strike ratio of happy response for someone who's drugged out of their fucking mind. Like, your happiness is not the core goal of existence, right? There has to be some duty, some purpose, some responsibility, some greater accomplishment, some fulfillment that goes beyond your immediate pleasure dopamine response. Because you eat bad food and you watch TV, you're going to be pretty fucking happy in the moment. Problem is, you do it for 30, 40 years, you have a wasted life. Like, we need to step fully away from, like, thinking that the best thing you do is just be happy. Because happiness is a dopamine shortcut.
But I think what I'm trying to say, though, is that is that really true? Like, if you don't have kids and you don't get, like, essentially what she said is if women that are in the older women, like 30 plus, that are single and don't have kids are actually the happier pool of people than women that have kids.
I think it's a guarantee that there would be. I don't think there's any debate about that at all. If what you're asking them for is, do you enjoy sleeping until 10 a.m. on a Saturday, getting drunk and having no responsibilities? Fuck yeah, I enjoy that. That sounds great. The real sadness about that is that you are a 30-plus-year-old adult living like a teenager. And for me, looking at you from externally, that is one of the saddest things I can think about. It's like, grow up. Like, it's not to live a whole life just having to be about you. That's why I feel like it's, yeah, you might be happy because you're so self-obsessed.
Yeah, but hang on a second, because this is like, what you're explaining there is a projection of what you think fulfilling life should be, and you're projecting that onto them.
Yes, yeah, of course it is, and they'll do the same back to me, and they have their own views, and that's everyone's opinion. But for me, my precursor for why I think that isn't just on this one topic. Mine is more like why I think responsibility, I think accountability, and I think that fulfillment are the deeper things to pursue in life. So of course, if you tell me, Darko, you can have responsibilities and obligations or you can have none. Which one's going to make you happier? Like, you know that we see that in almost everything. The easy way out always seems like it's the better one, but you always get less out of it.
But my question is more like, is there data to show that women that don't have kids and are single into their later years in life and just focus on their career, is there actual definitive data to show that they're actually more happy than women that have kids and a family?
Yes.
There is
There's
it
data,
actually does
and I
show
think
that.
there's a tipping point later years as well. But then also, there's also an element of that, which is like once you've like gone through menopause and you made that decision, you also have an incentive not to question it again. It's almost come on, there's like, it's too late, I've done it, I'm never going to open that box again or look deeply at that. So if someone asks me if I'm happy, I'm going to say yes. There's a bit of that too, because how do you handle the deep regret that you can never have them anymore? There's also that, like you got to think there's a psychological thing at play there as well, which is I've already made this decision, I can't reverse it, I just need to make the best of it.
You have to like psyop yourself into believing that you're really happy about the decision.
But there is countless, and I mean countless examples of women who are in their 40s who also say that the deepest regret of their lives is that they didn't have children. They describe it as mourning for the death of something that was never alive. And I think that's quite deep and that's quite profound. And for me, you might be the odd woman out who won't have that feeling. But these women who are honest about it and they say, I always wanted kids, I just wasn't able to do it, I didn't get a chance or some other reason, and they have a deep lifelong regret for it, that's probably the people we want to listen to a bit, because they're not trying to like psych themselves into, you know, accepting their decisions. But when you have a shallow survey of some random person calls you up and goes, hey, you're a single childless woman in your 50s, are you happy with what you did? What are you going to go to a person, random stranger on the phone and go, well, no, I'm actually quite sad, like this is miserable? You're not going to say that.
Yeah, true. So you're saying that the data that they're getting, whilst it may be true that they say that, the deeper feelings are potentially maybe that they aren't happy. But but here's the thing.
It's just my opinion.
It's just your opinion. But how can you gauge that? It'd be interesting to see the data of people saying that that is the truth, that they are happy, than to the people that say they regret it later on in life.
Do you know what a good metric is? A good metric is to see when you have people in their deathbeds, what do they say was like the thing that gave them the most joy in life? That's a great place to look, because you have nothing, you have no reason to lie anymore at that point. And almost all respondents said the strength and connection to their family. That is like across the board. Strength of connections to friends and family were what made life worth living. Every single person, Louis. There's not a single person at a deathbed who goes, I wish I worked a bit more. I wish I made a bit more money. Not a single person. Every one of them says, if I have any regret, it's that I didn't spend more time with family. That's across the board. So for me, it's like, I take that as one line of evidence. The other line of evidence is that, so far in my life, having responsibilities, taking accountability has actually enriched my life and made me happier in the long run. And I think children, having kids, is more of the same for that. It's more responsibility, it's more accountability, it's more obligations, but there's also a deep fulfillment to it that you made a new life and you get to watch them go through the world. You can try to impart some of your knowledge and your wisdom, and you have this close-knit tie. There's no real bond quite like child and parent. And you know that, like your parents are probably like, you have this unique connection to them that you don't get from many friends. And that's one of those strong social bonds that make life worth living, that every person on their deathbed says was what made life worth living. So if you want to have a life that's not tinged with the deepest and most saddest regret, strengthen your connection of bonds to other people. And family is one of the strongest bonds you can have. There's a reason we all do it, and it's not because of just these like reptilian brain urges. It's because it does, most of the time, make your life better. Across the board, to have a strong family unit, because you have strong social connections. And you have an investment in the future, which I think makes life better than thinking, okay, great, I die. There goes the whole unbroken bloodline that I'm part of. You know, sure, thank my great-grandfather for surviving that war just for me to throw it all away. There's a bit of that too that I think's like, there's selfishness to it. Like you're an unbroken chain of successful procreation, and you just decide to stop it because you wanted to work. And you're like, could you not have done both?
But I mean, I'm okay with that if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I don't have any issue with it. I just don't know if the data is real. I don't know if it's true. Like, I'd really like to know if this data is actually true. Like, if you asked people the same thing 50 years ago, would the answer be the same? Or are you just taking what the data now shows that you're more happy? But I don't know about that. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's fucking true or not.
The reason why you said like if it's what people want to do, then horses for courses, like go for it. The reason why I'm against that, Ben, I get a lot of flack for it, which is I don't want to just sit by on the sidelines and let people do what they want. I know I probably should, but I want to throw my 2 cents in, and my 2 cents is always going to be a warning, and the warning is like the expediency of now, like making the decision that makes you happy now compared to the decision that makes you happy in the future. Just be on the alert. Be cautious about that. Because you might think you're happy with what life is right now, but maybe you're just happy that you're young. Because being young is a pretty happy thing. Your bones don't hurt, your back doesn't hurt, you've got friends. That there's a future coming that you're not quite aware of. And unfortunately, especially for women, I really feel for them. They have to make a decision in their 20s and 30s, arguably their happiest time of their lives. They have to make a decision that's going to sacrifice some of that happiness to give them happiness in the future. And what a tough call to have to make. And I fully understand if they don't make that, because it doesn't make sense to them. They're, well, I'm happy now. I enjoy working. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy seeing my friends. Why would I throw that away? I get it. But wherever you've lived, if you're 35, if you're 30, wherever you've lived, there is that much time and some left on the back end here. And I'm imploring you to think about what might make that portion of your life a bit better and not just to throw that away, because you don't have a limited time. And that's what gets me about our culture and everyone saying, oh, it's their decision. I think they're being psyoped out of like a long-term happiness. And I really feel for them, because I think society's tricking them, because you have these really dastardly elites who don't want there to be that many people. We know the WF pushed overpopulation as an issue. We know that fertility rates are dropping. There's some powerful people who don't want more humans in the world. They don't like sharing the planet with us. So I feel like they've psyoped young women against motherhood. I think feminism did it. I think some powerful forces are doing it. I think our culture is doing it. And I don't know if it's actually going to give them a fulfilling life. And that's what I'm against the psyop of the women to opt out their own fertility. I think that is just madness to me. That's such a self-destructive force out there, right?
Well, you know what's interesting is that sometimes you see, this is just anecdotal, but you see like a lot of women that they've had like, I don't know, relationships where it hasn't worked out, or they've like sort of played the field up until their 30s, and then it seems like there's this mad rush to like find a partner and have a kid. I don't know, I've seen that a little bit, and I'm like, it's really interesting to me, because if you're so like, if you spout these ideas all the way up until that point, and then it's a mad rush because you want to have kids, I just feel like that's so disingenuous as well. But this is just my anecdotal observations,
It's almost like they snap out like a trance, like the 20s were like believing a certain thing, and then once the reality sets in, but also maybe there's a psychological element to that as well. Let's say you are in your teen years, you're finding out who you are. Right, you're 20 to 30 years, when you finally have some finances, you have a job that you like, you almost like start being happy with who you are as a person. But maybe you just get comfortable and accustomed to that, and it stops giving you the same joy. And you hit 30 and go, well, yeah, I enjoy working, but it's gone old. Like, I want something new. I want a new adventure, some new excitement in my life. There could be a bit of that at play as well. That wherever your life was, you've gotten kind of bored of it as well. How much travel can you really do? How much, how many bottomless brunches can you really go to? And at some point, do you want to keep living that way? Maybe that's also part of it. It's not like some trick that they're just trying to, hijack a good mate late in the piece. Maybe it's genuine.
Well, I think if like all your friends and stuff start sort of like doing that, then you sort of feel left out and a bit alone.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, because if you feel alone at that point and you find other people that don't make you feel alone at that stage, then think about that when everyone's got their kids and they're sort of focused on that, and they leave you behind, and then you're just alone. Like,
and that happens too.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and look, I had when I was younger, I had 2 roommates. We had a house together, like we were best mates. God, that was such I look back so fondly on that part of my life, But I accepted that had to end for something better. And some people try and hold on to that youthful sort of, carefree life, and they hold on to it for way too long. And the longer you hold on to it, the more you're damaging whatever could come after it. So like, there's a bit of that too. Like, yeah, okay, having kids would suck. It will suck for a bit. It's a sunk cost fallacy. You have to put a lot of energy into the kids before you get any sort of reward. And if they go bad, you get no reward as well. You just get more stress and heartache. Like, yeah, there's that to it. But I think that the joy you can get on the tail end and the satisfaction and fulfillment you can get on the tail end of seeing your kids become their own people and become successful and all the rest of that I think that pays tenfold for all the effort you need to put in.
100%, especially when you see your nieces and nephews like playing together, and it's, I don't know, it's just something about that where you're like, wow, like, do you really want to miss all of this? Like, I don't know. It's just like, even
see
when
them at playgrounds and shit. You see them on the monkey bars.
having
I always
fun.
stop and like I just smile.
And like seeing their aunties and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like even me going back and taking my mum to Italy to see her, like her siblings and stuff. I was just like, fuck, like this is. Could you really not ever want to see this? Like, it's just crazy. I don't know. It's just
and if you ask those people who don't think they want to have kids, and you go, okay, well, what you just put forward is what they can get if they do have kids, and you say, well, tell me, what is the thing that you want that you think you can get by not having kids? And you're like, okay, glass of red wine after a stressful day at work, times 7 times 52 times 30 years. Is that really it? Is that literally it? That's all you have? Well, that sounds so sad and vapid to me. Like, it sounds so.
Yeah, there's no substance after a while. I feel like what I have learned is like, I don't get the most enjoyment when I make something and I just keep it all to myself. It's the most enjoyable when I want to make mozzarella cheese and give it to my friends. You know, it's like I could
sharing what you made, right?
It's like, why would I want to keep everything to myself? You know, like if I make some wine, I want to give it to people to enjoy with me or with their families and stuff.
Do you find like enjoyment? I'm sure you're gonna say yes to this, well, when you get to help someone else learn how to do something as well. That's very fulfilling. Like you take someone, show someone at the gym, or like you show them something, you see them getting better at it as well.
Yeah.
There's a real good satisfaction from that.
For sure.
But that's what kids are.
Yeah.
That's solely your
They're
purpose.
sponges.
Yeah.
They're sponges. Yeah.
Solely your purpose as a parent is to like guide this new life form through existence. If you get the satisfaction and the reward from doing it for your friends and helping them with stuff, you're gonna feel that all the time with kids, all the time. On anything you want to teach them, anything you want to show them, any value you want to instill in them. That sounds fantastic. I don't understand why people are against that idea. Or they think, oh, we're nappies and crying, I'll lose sleep. Yeah, that's the bad, but there's so much good there as well.
Yeah, it's a way for you to grow as a person as well. It's like they're growing and you're growing as well. It's like, it's interesting, man. I get like it can be scary and people might not want to do it like at a certain age, but yeah, I don't really understand the whole thing about like, no, I'm never having kids. I'm just living for myself forever. I don't know. It's like maybe you'll have fun. Maybe you'll have fun.
Yeah,
I don't know.
look,
Some people will enjoy it.
Yeah, maybe
but
we're
I
wrong.
don't know. Yeah, but I don't think everyone will. Like I think the vast majority of people will get more out of being a parent than you live in your life completely alone.
And I think like a big part of our mental health crises that we have is that we're also self-obsessed. I think social media has made us very self-obsessed. I think cameras and video feeds of ourselves has been terrible for us. And I say this as a guy who can see himself talking right now.
Yeah.
You know, there's an element, like we sit here and we have a conversation, but we're fully aware that there's like the digital version of us that comes from this conversation, like a replicate that happens there. I don't know what good that's actually done for the human psyche. I don't think it's done much good at all. And I think that self-obsession is the reason people are less likely to have kids, because nothing makes you less self-obsessed than having a child, especially a baby. The baby actually needs your attention all the time. It needs your attention and it needs your partner's attention. And a lot of people just don't want to have something that needs their attention when they're giving all to themselves. I think there is a bit of that behind. There's a narcissism behind, the childless movement, I think, that no one wants to really talk about. And it's a narcissism that's fueled by social media and it's fueled by this idea of the perfect lifestyle that most people just do so they can share a photo of it on Instagram. That's the main reason people do anything these days. You go anywhere on holiday, you saw it. You were in Europe recently. How many people are one of the most beautiful constructions of mankind just doing that? Countless.
I'm even guilty of it, to be honest.
Me too.
I'm
guilty
of that
hypocrite
stuff
on this
too.
front as well.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard not to take a photo of something and show someone like, look at this beautiful thing I've seen.
Yeah. We were never meant to see our faces. We were never meant to see what we look like. There's that Greek fable of Narcissus, like that. That's where the word narcissism comes from. He's the guy who drowns in the pond trying to see his own reflection. That was the story of it. That's where narcissism comes from. It's the self-obsession. We were never supposed to see our reflections this much.
It's interesting.
We never evolved for this. Like, you were never meant to see your own face. You were just meant to see other people's.
Interesting, man. It's an interesting
observation.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Should we maybe call that one there?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
that was a
think
good
we
one.
can call it there.
Okay, you gotta keep knocking those over. Those are gonna have to go up there. I reckon. You're gonna need something else there. Yeah, you gotta need to stop going to the gym or get a different decoration, bro. Easy, alright. Cheers for joining us, guys.
That was good. Thanks. Yeah, we're gonna try and keep like the topics.
That was
free
pretty good.
flowing.
That was very free flowing. We touched
I
on the
think
things
so.
we want to touch on, and we went different places as well. That's
Yeah,
a
we
good
should
way to
write.
go.
If you guys have any interest in like hearing about certain stuff or want to
Yeah.
hear about particular things that
We're
we
working
talk about,
each week, like we'll do it on Saturday mornings from now, and I think that'll be pretty consistent if we can. But what we'll do is anything that's happening that Monday to Friday, we'll get one or two topics to keep us on track, and then we'll still just
free flow.
because you get tangents from things. I don't know how we got to the topic we just
I
talked
have
about
no
then.
idea. I can't
You have to
even
watch it
remember.
back over
Yeah, I
it,
know,
and you
seriously.
trace it and go, all right, there we go.
Yeah.
But it was linked. It was
It was
smoothly linked.
somehow it linked for sure.
It linked. All right, easy. All right, thanks, guys.
All right.